The Carswell mansion wasn't quite as big as St. Patrick's Cathedral, but then the Carswell family wasn't as old as the Catholic Church. Give them time, I figured. They'd catch up. But murder is murder, even when you're rolling in dough. That's why Sister Mary Catherine Ignatius and I were paying this little call. My name's O'Downey. I'm not above a bit of gumshoeing every now and then.
Well, Murphy, I see they finally got your uniform that fits.
A big black limousine was pulling away from the house. A mobster's car. The kind that's taken more people for a ride than the Chicago Well. Oh, sure enough, there was a mobster inside it. And not just any two-bit goon either, but Big Ed Franklin himself. Big Ed may not have been the big boss of all of Chicago's rackets, but he was definitely a top contender. Not the kind of guy you'd expect to see rubbing elbows with upper-crust swells like the Carswells. I couldn't help wondering what he was doing here. Well, I didn't have far to go to find out.
This is the most far-fetched thing I've ever read.
You don't like it, Frank?
Well, I like a good detective story, but this, a priest who sounds like an old gangster movie?
Keep reading, maybe it gets better.
Yeah, maybe.
They were just bringing out the stiff as we came in.
Oh! Now, don't you be going female on me, sister. Why, that's Jack Corey. He was one of Big Ed Franklin's boys.
Father O'Downey, is that man dead?
Well, let me put it this way. Don't ask him to dance. Come on. Detective Sergeant Chet Lawson was a decent guy for a cop, but he was about as sharp as a bowl of oatmeal.
Well, 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 if it ain't Father O'Downey and little Sister Mary Catherine Ignatius. How come you ain't in church?
Well, 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 Lawson, how come you aren't out pounding a beat in the boondocks, huh?
Always with the wise remarks. What's your interest in this case, Padre?
The Carswells used to be parishioners. Small world, ain't it?
Isn't it?
Isn't it?
Father O'Downey baptized the Carswell's children, Anthony and Judith.
After the old man died, we lost touch. I heard Mrs. Carswell remarried.
Yeah, to him. This is Peter Stackpole, the kid's stepfather.
Edith and I were very happy together for several years, Father. But I'm glad she isn't alive to see this. May I go now, Sergeant?
Yeah, sure.
When we heard there was trouble, we hurried right over.
What happened to Jack Corey?
Anthony Carswell killed him. We found him standing over the body, gun in hand.
Oh, my heavens.
I don't believe that. Carswell's a good kid.
A good kid. Gone bad.
Come on, fella. Let's go. Do you want me to say I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm not.
The way it lays out, Jack Corey and Judith Carswell were an item. Judith wanted to end it. Corey didn't agree. They had a fight. Anthony tried to break it up. Corey pulled a gun. They struggled. Bang, bang.
Where's Judith now? Judith Carswell was Anthony's sister, and she didn't exactly look like she just won the Irish sweepstakes. Well, with her boyfriend lying out in the meat wagon and her brother taking the rap for bumping him off, you could understand why she wasn't dancing a jig.
What happened to the poor dear?
She ain't said a word since the shooting. Her sawbone says she's in shock.
I saw Big Ed Franklin driving out as we were coming in. What's he got to do with all of this?
You guys got business with the kid's stepfather, Stackpole.
Well, did you ever think maybe that Big Ed bumped Corey?
Or perhaps Mr. Stackpole.
Or Judith herself in a lover's quarrel?
Just one problem with those theories, Padre. Carswell confessed.
Oh, did he now? And what did you do? Beat it out of him? Who did you get to hold him down?
Why, you...
Take your best shot, Flatfoot.
Father O'Downey, you simply cannot behave in this fashion.
Just because you wear your collar backward, don't mean you're above the law. Stay out of police business, O'Downey.
Mary Catherine Ignatius, that Carswell kid has been railroaded. I can feel it in my bones. Someone else killed Corey.
But Father, Anthony confessed. Now, goodness, why would he lie?
Well, that's what we're going to find out. The Lord may move in mysterious ways, sister, but I believe in the direct approach. Come on.
got your lunch on the table, Father. What's all this?
Book.
Murder Cried the Padre.
Murder cried who?
It's a detective story by a friend of Father Dowling's, Rich Vincent.
Father Francis Xavier O'Downey, clerical crime stopper. I'll tell you something, Steve. If this book ever gets published, I'll never be able to live it down.
What about me, Frank? Anybody who reads this thing and knows us is going to think that I am Sister Mary Catherine Ignatius. Talk about a wimp in a wimple.
No one will ever mistake you for Sister Mary Catherine. The worst part of this is that the mystery in this novel is based on a real case.
What case, Father?
The Freddie Nagel murder case about 4 months ago.
Oh,
Freddie Nagel was engaged to Joyce Morrison.
the social heiress. I read about her.
Nagel was shot by Joyce's brother, Howard Morrison.
Howard Morrison confessed, just like the character Anthony Carswell in this novel. But in the book, Father O'Downey thinks that Anthony Carswell is innocent.
You mean to say somebody's written a book about you and Sister Stephanie?
Book? What book? Did I miss something?
You almost missed lunch. I'll fix you a sandwich.
Oh, thanks, Marie. No butter, no mayonnaise. I'm trying to lose a little weight.
Why don't you cut it down to 3 meals a day?
I'm going to call Rich Vincent. We need to talk. Steve will explain.
Oh,
Okay, about 6 months ago, Father Dowling met this old-time hard-boiled mystery writer named Rich Vincent, you know? Well, this guy was very impressed with the idea of a priest who was a detective, solved crimes. So he asked us if he could use us as characters in this book that he was writing, set in the 1930s, and we sort of said yes.
so exciting.
Yeah.
Is this the book?
Yes.
Am I in it?
Vincent, start talking. It's your quarter.
It's Father Dowling.
Oh, Father Dowling, I've been waiting for your call. Have you read it?
Well, just the first chapter. Rich, about the characters Father O'Downey and Sister Mary Catherine Ignatius.
I had to take a few liberties, Father. You gotta understand.
Yes, but
This book will be my first bestseller in a long time. You and Father O'Downey, you'll both be famous, Father. I did a lot of research on the Nagel murder case. It was a frame-up. And this book is gonna blow it wide open.
what frame up? Are you saying that Howard Morrison didn't kill Freddie Nagel?
You'll find out all about it in the last chapter. I just finished it this morning.
Well, I thought you sent me the whole book.
Only the first part. Why not combine? I'm printing out the last chapter now.
I think we need to talk. I'll be right over.
I'll be waiting, Father.
You mind missing lunch, Sister Mary Catherine Ignatius?
I'll get the car.
Father Dowling, this is scandalous.
Philip, for once we agree.
Well, this Father O'Downey shows a flagrant disregard for authority. And the way he talks, this is hardly the proper public image for a priest, Frank.
I imagine the bishop will want to know all about it.
I should take notes.
Be my guest.
The butler had a face that could have been carved on Mount Rushmore, and he looked about as easy to get around. Frank, is this what they mean by hard-boiled detective fiction?
Nobody home?
Well, that's odd. He said he'd wait for us.
You want me to see if the door is open, Frank?
Steve, I just tried to... Oh, you mean... Mm-hmm. You better call Clancy, Steve. He's dead. Clancy, I don't see how you can call this a suicide.
Well, Father, I'm no parlor detective, but I'd say my first clue was the gun we found in Vincent's hand.
Yes, but that could have been planted.
Then there's clue number 2. The door was locked from inside.
Yeah, the killer could have locked it from the inside and gone out through the window. Clancy, Vincent was a writer. Now, what writer would commit suicide without leaving a note?
You told me Vincent hadn't had a successful book in years. He was despondent. Clue number 3.
He was sure that his new novel was going to put him back on the bestseller list.
This novel, Frank? Murder, Cried the Padre? Don't go female on me now, sister. Where'd Vincent get this Father O'Downey character, Father?
I have no idea. Clancy, Vincent was researching the Freddie Nagel murder case.
That case is closed. Howard Morrison confessed.
He thought that Morrison was framed.
You think the real murder killed Vincent to keep the truth from coming out? You ought to write a book.
Vincent said we'd learn all about the Morrison frame-up in his last chapter, chapter 12, and he was printing it out when I talked to him on the telephone.
Sister, is there a chapter of manuscript in that printer?
No, Sergeant.
Anything on the computer?
Just chapters 1 through 11. If there was a chapter 12, it's been erased.
You know what I think, Father? I think Vincent didn't have an ending. I think he killed himself rather than face another failure. End of story, Father O'Downey.
Well, one thing's for sure. Jack Corey was food for the worms. The only question is who put him on the menu. Big Ed Franklin had the rep to make him a suspect. If his boy Jack Corey was double-dealing him, Big Ed wouldn't think twice about bumping him off. Or Judith could have done it. Her lover boy pushed her around once too often. She took it personally. And then there was the stepfather, Peter Stackpole. He was in business with Corey. They might have had a business disagreement. Any of them might be the real killer. At the moment, only God knows which one, but I plan to catch up with him real soon.
Hey, Frank. I got those clippings you wanted from the library. Did you find any new clues in the manuscript?
Steve, in the book, Father O'Downey names 3 suspects who might have killed Jack Corey. And every one of these fictional characters has a real-life counterpart.
And here they are, Frank. Howard Morrison, confessed killer. In the book, he's Anthony Carswell. Here's his sister Joyce, Judith Carswell, and their stepfather, Gregory Laidlaw, alias Peter Stackpole, the late Freddie Nagel, or Jack Corey, and his boss, Nick Cortland, a.k.a. Big Ed Franklin.
One of these 3 people killed Freddie Nagel and let Howard Morrison take the blame for it.
And Rich Vincent found out the truth and got murdered.
The clue is in the book. In order for us to find out who killed Rich Vincent, we first have to find out who killed Jack Corey.
You mean Freddie Nagel?
Exactly. Stackpole was one cool cookie. It didn't take much of a mind reader to know he didn't like me.
I don't like you, Father O'Downey, and I particularly don't like what you're implying.
I'm not implying anything, Mr. Stackpole. I'm asking you flat out, did you kill Jack Corey?
What possible motive could I have for killing Corey?
How about $10 million worth of motive, Mr. Stackpole?
What are you talking about?
I happen to know that Anthony and Judith Carswell will inherit $10 million from their mother's estate.
And how would you know that?
Never mind. Well, that's true, isn't it, Mr. Stackpole?
And what has that to do with anything?
Well, just that if Anthony is in prison and Judith is in a psychiatric hospital, all that money goes to you. So I'm asking you once again, Mr. Stackpole, did you bump off Jack Corey and pin the rap on your stepson?
You lousy...
Hold this, sister. Go on. Take your best shot, Mr. Stackpole. I was welterweight champ of the Golden Gloves before I became a priest.
Father O'Downey, stop it this instant.
If you weren't a man of the cloth, I'd have you arrested. Now get out!
We were just leaving.
Frank? Frank, we're here.
We're where?
We're at the Morrison Mansion. You wanted to talk to Gregory Laidlaw.
Steve, if Mr. Laidlaw is anything like his counterpart in the book, I just hope we catch him in a good mood.
I'd offer you something stronger than mineral water, Father, but I don't drink.
What a relief.
Excuse me?
Nothing.
So you never met Rich Vincent personally, Mr. Laidlaw?
We talked a few times on the telephone, but when I realized what he was doing, I tried to discourage him from writing about the murder for my stepdaughter's sake. Joyce has suffered enough.
Do you mind if I ask you where you were this morning, Mr. Laidlaw?
I was working on my computer. I run a software company.
Anybody see you?
Don't think so. Is it important?
Rich Vincent was killed this morning.
God. And you think that I had something to do with that? Why?
Who controls your stepchildren's inheritance, Mr. Laidlaw?
I do, of course, but... Father, for heaven's sake.
I'm not suggesting anything.
Somebody else might think that you were keeping your stepdaughter's aunt while you play with her money, but not us.
Are you always this colorful, sister?
Where is your stepdaughter now?
Upstairs, in her room.
Can we see her?
I don't think that's a good idea. Joyce hasn't been at all the same since this happened. She's under heavy medication, requires constant care.
Yeah, well, we certainly don't want to trouble her.
Joyce is all I have left to remind me of her mother. I'd do anything for her.
Well, thank you for seeing us, Mr. Laidlaw.
Well, maybe when Joyce is feeling better, we could ask her a few questions, but there's no hurry.
There is one thing you could do for me, Mr. Laidlaw.
What's that?
Arrange for me to talk to your stepson, Howard.
I'll call my attorney tomorrow.
How about now?
Would you mind?
If you insist.
Miss Morrison? Miss Morrison? Hi, I'm Steve Oskowski. I'm from St. Michael's Parish. You don't know me or anything. I'm trying to find out something about your brother. Miss Morrison? You don't even know I'm here, do you?
Time for your medicine, Miss Morrison. And then we'll take a nice walk. Here we go.
Well, I think that does it. You can see Howard at county jail this afternoon, Father.
Thank you. I think we're done here, sister.
Think we are, Father?
Oh, one other thing, Mr. Laidlaw.
What's that?
Nick Cortland was here the night Freddie Nagel was murdered.
And you're wondering why. Nicholas Cortland was an investor in my software company. I knew about his reputation, but then I was advised that he'd become strictly legitimate. It was bad advice.
And that's how Joyce first met Freddie Nagel.
Through your connection with Nick Cortland.
Yes, regrettably, I brought them together. Nagel worked for Nick. Joyce began to see a lot of him, and he treated her badly. Very badly sometimes. I urged her to end it. She finally did. I blame myself for everything that happened. And now, Father, if you don't mind.
Goodbye, Mr. Laidlaw. And thanks for your help.
She's been faking it, Frank.
Joyce?
Supposed to be under heavy sedation, right?
Right.
Right. Well, look what I found in her night table.
Her medication?
She's been stashing it. There's a lot of different kinds of pills here, Frank.
Steve, drop me at the rectory, and then you run those pills over to McIntyre's pharmacy and see if you can find out what they are.
You thinking what I'm thinking?
If Joyce Morrison is faking a psychiatric condition,
Then she could have snuck out of the house and killed Rich Vincent.
and those pills would be a perfect alibi. Just once, I'd like to have a cup of Java around here that doesn't taste like yesterday's mud.
Now, Father, you know Maggie does her best. It isn't easy adjusting to life outside prison walls.
No kidding.
Father, you don't really think that Judith Carswell killed Jack Corey, do you?
Well, maybe Judith got tired of having Corey slap her around.
But what about this Mr. Franklin that you and Sergeant Lawson mentioned?
I'm gonna grab that door for you, Father. Don't worry about the kitchen. Clean it up tomorrow.
I gather Big Ed Franklin is some sort of criminal.
That's like calling Mussolini some kind of politician. He runs the rackets on the South Side.
Would he have any sort of motive for wanting Jack Corey dead?
Well, Corey was his right-hand man. They could have had a falling out.
Hey, Father, you got company.
Well, it ain't the guy with the funny collar and the big mouth. Let's go for a ride.
Is it trouble you're looking for?
We're looking for you. Big Ed wants to have a chat. You too, sister.
Father O'Downey, what are these men doing?
Oh, they're just trying to get our attention, sister. And maybe scare us a little.
Scaring people is bad for business. So is asking questions and making trouble with the coppers.
Well, if it ain't all Big Ed himself.
I haven't seen you since we used to duck choir practice at St. Anselmo's.
I must insist that you release us immediately.
Save it, sister. Should have stuck with me, Padre. Could have been somebody by now.
Like Jack Corey, sticking with you got him dead.
I gotta do something about that big mouth of yours, O'Downey.
Did you do it, Big Ed, huh? Did you ice Jack Corey? He wouldn't have been your first one either, would he now, Ed?
It's not too late to confess, you know.
Did you ever have a cement overcoat, wise guy?
I've been fitted a couple of times, but I never wore one.
Well, this time you're gonna get a concrete shoe shine. All right, boys.
Father O'Downey, they're ruining my shoes.
Don't worry, sister. I'll get us out of this.
Sorry to interrupt your reading, Father. But I think it's time we had a little talk in private. We can talk privately in here.
What do you want?
Father, do you know who I am?
Mm-hmm. Nick Cortland, the gangster.
I prefer to think of myself as a businessman.
In Gregory Laidlaw's software business, I hear.
Not anymore. Laylaw bought me out. Look, Father, I came here to tell you not to get involved in this case. The right man is behind bars, and the Morrison family suffered enough.
What if somebody else killed Freddie Nagel?
Somebody else? Who might that be?
Well, Nagel worked for you? Was he a good employee, or did you have a falling out?
Leave it alone, Father.
And if I don't?
You might come to regret your involvement.
Is that a threat?
Look, Father, Howard Morrison confessed to Freddie Nagel's murder. Let it stand there. Otherwise, who knows what might happen?
Mr. Cortland, where were you when Rich Vincent was killed?
That's my business. And that's all I'm going to say for now. Goodbye, Father.
Goodbye, Mr. Cortland.
What's that?
Nick Cortland. What did you find out about Joyce's pills?
I gave him to a friend of mine who works at a drugstore. He's gonna check him out after he gets off work. So what did Cortland want?
He was trying to scare me away from this case, and he came pretty close to doing it.
So he's probably got something to hide, right?
Right. Get your coat. Steve, I am convinced more than ever that Rich Vincent was killed because he had proof that Howard Morrison was framed for murder.
But Morrison confessed, Frank.
Yes, Cortland made that same point.
Well, so how do we get around that?
We are going to ask Howard Morrison. Let's take a ride, hmm? Pardon the expression.
How many times do I have to tell you, Father? I killed Freddie Nagel. The way he treated Joyce, I'd do it again.
You love your sister very much, don't you?
Yeah.
Enough to confess to a murder you didn't commit.
What do you mean?
Well, as I understand it, your stepfather and Nick Cortland found you and your sister alone in the room with Nagel's body. Joyce was in hysterics, and you had a gun in your hand. But no one outside that room saw you shoot Nagel.
Why would I lie?
Well, I can think of one good reason: to protect your sister.
Joyce had nothing to do with this.
Were you protecting your sister, Howard? Is that why you confessed to a murder?
I'm finished. Let's go.
Did it ever occur to you that she didn't do it? That you're taking the fall for somebody else? Somebody like Laidlaw or Cortland?
What do you know?
Just that you love your sister very much, and that you're making a big mistake.
What did he tell you, Frank?
Not enough.
Well, at least we know one thing. He didn't kill Rich Vincent. He was in jail.
Good thinking, sister.
Huh? I knew these babies would come in handy again someday. So, sister, you and Father had a real scare, huh?
I must admit, Maggie, I was quite nervous. It was my first fitting for cement overshoes.
Yeah.
Well, no, Sister Mary Catherine, I told you I had a plan.
That's what my husband said just before they shipped him off to Sing Sing.
Well, you certainly
Yeah.
surprised Mr. Franklin and those two ruffians, Father. Wherever did you learn to throw your voice in that fashion?
Same place I learned the Indian rope trick. From my cousin Dennis, the Carney sideshow barker. All the same, I was glad that that police boat showed up when it did.
There you are, Father. I must say, cement's a lot easier to crack than a safe. Oh, and don't worry about this mess, Father. I'll clean it up tomorrow, as soon as I finish last week's dishes.
Well, it seems very apparent that it was Big Ed Franklin who killed Jack Corey.
Now, why would you say that, Mary Catherine? Because of this? That's just Big Ed's way of telling us to mind our own business.
What if Mr. Franklin didn't kill Jack Corey? Who did?
Why would Anthony Carswell confess to a crime he didn't commit?
I have no idea.
Well, it could be that he was trying to protect someone.
But whom?
Well, it's as plain as the nose on your face. If you'll pardon the expression.
Frank, this is impossible. How could they have ever gotten out of cement overshoes?
That's not the point, Steve. The point is who done it. And we haven't got to that part yet because we haven't got the pages. Marie, do you know where the rest of the manuscript is?
Father Prestwick took it.
Where did he go?
I don't know, but he's sure to be back. There's a piece of pie left.
Oh, never mind. It's only the last chapter we really need.
Yeah, the solution to this thing.
Steve, are you sure you didn't find the last chapter in Vincent's computer?
No, I looked, Frank. If it was there, it's been erased.
Is that hard to do?
That's easy. It's finding it again that's the hard thing. In fact, it's almost impossible.
It's worth a try. Did you phone your friend at the pharmacy?
Yeah, you know, Joyce Morrison was under some serious medication, Frank. In fact, if she had been taking all the stuff they gave her, she would have been a total zombie.
Joyce Morrison's the key to all of this.
You think she killed Vincent and Nagel?
I don't know, but I know who to ask.
Joyce Morrison.
Sister Mary Catherine Ignatius, you are one smart cookie. Come on.
Hey, Frank, look. What's going on?
Looks like they're kidnapping her. Let's go. Looks like some kind of private sanitarium.
Great front for hiding somebody you kidnapped.
Maybe.
Frank, this place is like a maze. If we're gonna find her, we gotta split up.
Right. But you be careful, Steve, huh?
Yeah, you too. Remember, you're not really Father O'Downey.
I'll try and keep that in mind.
You're simply disoriented, Miss Morrison. That is to be expected. But once we get you settled in, you'll feel right at home here.
Excuse me, doctor. There's a patient inside who's suffering from severe multiple personality disorder.
Who?
He doesn't know. That's his problem.
Well, who are you?
I'm a nun, and I'm telling you there's somebody inside who needs your help. Now, you gonna believe me or not? Miss Morrison, I'm Steve Oskowski. I'm from St. Michael's. Do you remember me? I'm gonna help you, all right? I'm gonna help you get out of here. Hey! Nick.
Steve, I saw you running. What's the matter? What are you doing here?
Happen to own this place.
Mr. Cortland, the police know we're here.
If
Father,
anything happens to us, they're gonna know about it, all right?
Sister.
In fact, I'm sure the police have got the place surrounded right now.
Father Darling, I didn't kidnap Joyce. I never do anything to hurt her.
I came here to get Nick's help. He's the only friend I have in the world, now that Freddie's dead.
What?
Freddie Nagel was like a son to me.
Freddie and I were married the day that he was killed.
How come this didn't come out in court?
I kept it a secret.
I only found out for myself a few days ago when a rich Vincent showed me a copy of the marriage certificate.
And by then, I was too sick to tell anyone anything.
Not sick, drugged. Joyce, did you actually see your brother kill Freddie?
I wish I could tell you, sister. That whole night's a blur. My brother and Freddie never got along. It's all my fault.
No, it isn't. It'll be all right. Take her inside, please. You satisfied, Father? Joyce came to me for help, that's all. Now, if you excuse me.
Mr. Cortland, in spite of what we heard, Joyce Morrison is still a suspect, and so are you. You'll hear from us soon.
Father Dowling, what can I do for you?
Mr. Laidlaw, you told me that you owned a computer software company. Does that make you an expert?
That depends on what you mean by expert, Father.
Well, could you recover a lost computer file?
Again, that depends. Why?
I need your help.
I have to warn you, Father, that this may not work.
Sister Stephanie tells me that when you erase a file from the computer, the file itself isn't actually destroyed.
What's happened is that the directory entry for the file itself has been wiped from the computer's memory.
See, computer file directory, Frank, it's like a card catalog from a library, you know. Say you lose the index card from a book.
The book itself is still somewhere in the library.
Right, we just don't know where to look for it anymore.
Oh, I understand. Then the last chapter is still in the computer
But the computer doesn't know how to find it.
because the killer has wiped out the file's directory entry.
What I've attempted is to recreate the directory entry through a special program that I've loaded into the computer from this floppy disk. There.
Chapter 12. I doped it out, and it wasn't a pretty story. That's right, Lawson. Judith Carswell and Jack Corey were secretly married. They tied the knot the same day that Corey was killed.
Tough way to spend the wedding night.
Yeah, tougher than you think. You see, Jack Corey had a real way with the dames. He liked slapping them around. You thought that he'd changed once he heard wedding bells, but you were wrong.
That's not true. Jack was a sweet guy.
Now, Miss Carswell. Father O'Downey saw the bruise Mr. Corey gave you that afternoon.
He had a shiner big as a pie plate.
I must have bumped into something. I was in shock, hysterical.
That's what you wanted us to think. But you weren't so hysterical that you couldn't grab Corey's gun and shoot him dead in a fit of rage.
I thought Anthony killed Jack.
He confessed.
Because he wanted to protect his sweet little sister.
You let Anthony take the blame when you were the real killer all along. Shame on you.
Makes sense to me.
Lady, you're going downtown.
Nobody's taking me anywhere. Keep back or I swear the nun gets it.
Father O'Downey.
Where'd you learn to shoot like that, Padre?
Now, why is it that people always assume that just because you're a man of the cloth, you don't know how to pack a Roscoe?
But Father Dowling, that isn't what happened. I swear it isn't. I couldn't have killed Freddie. We were in love.
No, you didn't kill him, Miss Morrison. You see, this is not the last chapter that Rich Vincent wrote. It's a forgery, written by the same person who killed him and Freddie Nagel, too. You were all invited here tonight so we could find out who that person is.
See, we found the real last chapter in Vincent's computer, even though somebody tried their best to erase it.
We all know that it's possible to recover an erased file from a computer. This is the real end of the story. Chapter 12. I doped it out, and it wasn't a pretty story. That's right, Lawson. Judith Carswell was secretly married to Jack Corey. They tied the knot the same day that Corey was killed.
Tough way to spend the wedding night.
Wasn't it? But that wedding night would have been a lot tougher for you had Jack Corey lived, wouldn't it, Mr. Stackpole?
I don't know what you mean.
Now, Mr. Stackpole. Father O'Downey found a copy of your late wife's will in your desk.
According to this document, your wife's millions were held in trust under your control till the day your stepdaughter got married.
The day Judith married, she was to receive half the estate as dowry.
And Anthony Carswell was to get the other half on his 25th birthday, which is just 3 months from now.
Leaving you with nothing.
You needed that money to pay off your gambling debts to Big Ed. He wanted a piece of your company, but you bought him off. You killed Jack Corey, Mr. Stackpole.
Shame on you.
You let your stepson take the rap for it while you kept your stepdaughter hopped up in drugs, thinking that nobody would find out the truth.
But you didn't count on Father O'Downey.
Buddy, you're going downtown.
That was Lawson's favorite line. Thanks to me and Sister Mary Catherine, he got to use it a lot. But he never, ever said thank you. God forgive him.
It's ridiculous. It's just a book of fiction.
Is it? Nick Cortland here told me that you bought back his investment in your software company. Now, where did you get the money, Mr. Laidlaw? From your stepchildren's inheritance?
You killed Freddie Nagel, and when Rich Vincent found out, you killed him too.
Yesterday, when Rich Vincent was killed, you went to his office and you shot him. And then you erased his last chapter from the computer and destroyed the printout. This afternoon, when I called you for help to recover the lost file, you rewrote that last chapter to name your stepdaughter as the killer.
Yeah, that chapter that you found in Vincent's computer, you brought that in yourself on a floppy disk.
Only a guilty man would have gone to the trouble to forge that last chapter.
Makes sense to me.
Mr. Laidlaw, you're under arrest.
Look out!
I'm not saying another word without my attorney. But Father O'Downey can't hold a candle to you, Father Dowling.
Sister Mary Catherine Ignatius, I am surprised at you.
I wasn't always a nun, Frank.
But that's another story.
A couple of snowflakes were still drifting down on the dirty streets of Chicago like dandruff off the collar of a drunk. Sure, I was depressed. But if I'd known at that moment what was right around the corner, heading for me like a runaway express train, I think I'd have settled for more depression. It's easier on the nervous system.
There's a dame outside.
Who is she, Sweetcakes?
You're the shamest. You figure it out.
Send her in. And see that we're not disturbed. Sweetcakes was right about one thing. If looks were pizza, this babe would be the house special with double everything.
Bill Prestwick.
That's what my friends call me. And again, I don't have many friends.
I need your help.
Why me?
I looked in the phone book. Your number came up. The bishop is dead. And I swear I didn't know the gun was loaded.
Dames never do.
But you've got to believe me. There's no place else I can turn.
You can't go in there.
Ryan, stop me, cutie.
What is this, a setup?
I figured you had something going on the side, but with this jerk,
No, Big Frank. I swear he meant nothing to me.
out of the way, sweetheart. You and I will settle up later. Right now, it's your turn, my friend.
Hey, I swear, she just came in here a few seconds ago.
Your number's up. You're cashing in your chips. You're handing in your lunch pail. You're taking a fall. You're about to get your ticket punched. You're going to take a long walk on a short pier. You're going south. You're taking a cab.
No, please, don't do any of those things. No,
Bill, wake up.
No.
Wake up.
What? What?
You were asleep. You were shouting.
Oh, I was having a dream.
Must have been a nightmare from the sound of it. I heard it all the way out in the kitchen.
What kind of a dream was it?
Oh, I'd just been reading this detective story before I fell asleep, and all of a sudden, I was in this private eye's office, only it was me. And you were in it, Marie. And Sister Stephanie, you were in it, and Father Dowling, you were all in my dream.
Phil, you're not in Kansas anymore.